Hey everyone, nice weather out, so I'm out again to talk about the next Time Force episode, End of Time Part 3, the finale of Time Force, the last episode of my absolute favorite season. When I started watching Time Force in my mind, I couldn't remember any particularly weak episodes except for Full Exposure. Rewatching it again, I still pretty much feel the same way. The only really weak episode was Full Exposure, and then there was maybe one or two others that didn't really work very well. But yeah, Time Force is definitely one of the strongest seasons Time Force has ever done. I still really love it. I enjoy all of it. And so, getting to the finale, the Rangers, aside from Wes, are sent back to 2001. And, let's see. Yeah, they get back to 2001, and then they take out Doomtron, and then they go to help Wes against the Cyclobots. And, let's see. Wes asks why they came back. Jen responds that anyone can change their destiny. And Wes understands, and so then they start to make a plan, and this the conflict between them, you'd think there'd be a little bit more, but yeah, it kind of glosses right past that, but I don't really mind, because the cast is really likable. They make this work. So anyway, let's see. Rancic is able to get Doomtron active again, and then we see Gluto, who's freaked out by what's going on. He goes and puts himself into cryostasis. Okay, I always thought this was kind of a funny bit when I was a kid, because, I knew who Gluto was. I'd seen the episodes that he was in, but he was never really that big of a character, even when he was there. So this just felt like a very goofy way to end his story. He was kind of pointless, it seems. I don't mind it too much. It's a funny little bit, and it's not like Gluto's a bad character. He's just kind of an unexplored character. So anyway, the Rangers set the Quantum Defender, the Quantum Rangers gun, to target the Trizerium crystal inside of the Q-Rex, and then, let's see. So then they get the Megazord. The Megazord holds off Doomtron. Again, I'm not sure how exactly the Megazord got through with the time holes still active. And is it it's really important now that they got it through? So whatever. Anyway, the plan works. Wes is able to use the Q-Rex's remaining power to blast Doomtron. Doomtron's destroyed, and then the time holes close. And then we get to this one really cool scene. Rancic storms over to Frax's body on the ground, yells at him to get up, kicks him, and we see this really disturbing scene of Frax's face collapsing in on itself and just falling apart. Wow. Poor Frax died twice. Or 3 times, if you count Ferrix as a separate entity. Ugh. Poor Frax, he did not get a good deal in this. Although he was kind of redeemed at the end, I guess. Whatever. Anyway, it's really cool to see a character with, Frax's depth actually die in Power Rangers, because before and after this, we really don't see it often. The only other, major character I can think of where they die and it's permanent is Magna Defender. I'm sure there's some other ones. The villains, obviously, get killed a lot in Power Rangers, but, there's geese over there. Okay, anyway, back to this thing. Sorry, I get distracted easily. Gotta turn my notes back on here. So anyway, Frax dies, and Nadira is crying over him, and Rancic yells at Nadira for crying over Frax. "Don't tell me you're crying over this ridiculous robot!" And then Nadira yells back at him, "Daddy, he was once human. How can you be so cruel?" And then he pushes Nadira aside and leaves her there and leaves. And this really showed a lot of how far gone Rancic was at this point. Because in the past, no matter what was going on, whatever Nadira was doing, he cared about, and he loved her, and he cared about what she was doing. He wasn't even mad when she wanted to date one of the Rangers, or well, he was reluctant to accept it. But again, goofy episode, that one. But I think it's still relevant to bring up because it was a big Rancic and Nadira episode. Anyway, back to this thing. While Nadira is there next to Frax, she hears a baby crying, and she goes over, she finds this baby carriage left all alone, she takes the baby out and goes to try and find whoever owns the baby. And then, let's see, back to the Rangers. The Rangers encounter Rancic, and they battle Rancic, and there's this really big fight. Rancic is throwing the Rangers all over the place, and we get to see just how strong he really was. It's a really cool fight scene. Like, definitely one of the best in the season. And, let's see. Oh yeah, Nadira shows up. She still has the baby. She hides in some abandoned building to keep away from the fighting. Wes shows up and activates the red battle warrior armor, and even that can't take out Rancic. It is cool to see that again. It's neat that the battle warrior armor kinda sorta gets a payoff, even if it's just, oh, that was no match for him. Cool. Still, it's cool to see like every element from the show, whatever it is, come back in the finale. It's something else that I really wish they would do more of in like current Power Rangers or even in the Disney era seasons. I remember wishing that like things that were set up in the season or allies they made, equipment that they got would return in the finale. Sometimes it would in a cool way, and other times they just kind of seem to forget everything. So then, let's see. Jen is still standing up to Rancic. All the others are too fatigued to stand, and she tries to lead Rancic into a building. Coincidentally, the same building that Nadira is in. And so then, see, Rancic follows Jen into the building. He's looking around for her, and he sees something move, and he immediately blasts at it, and he goes over expecting to see Jen, but then suddenly Jen pops up behind him, and there's this really great reaction. She holds up the gun, freeze, he turns around, huh? And the shock and confusion in his face is just so perfect here. She blasts him, he falls over, he's wounded, and then he hears Nadira. He crawls over to Nadira thinking he heard her, and then he sees that Nadira's holding the baby. Is he okay? And then Rancic looks at the baby. Yes, he's okay. And then Nadira asks Rancic, how can you hate something so beautiful? And Rancic looks at the baby, he looks at Nadira, and slowly he comes to the realization that his hate blinded him so much that he almost hurt Nadira, the one person he really cares about, and he says that in the show. How was it? I wrote it down, where is it? My heart has been filled with hate for so long that it nearly cost me the one person I truly, truly love. It's a great line. Love Rancic. Rancic's a cool villain. I really like Rancic. And so anyway, he's come to the realization of what he's doing. He's aware of what he's done, and he's willing to give himself up to Time Force. He willingly turns himself in, gets the handcuffs put on him, and he's taken away. And then we don't see him again in the rest of the episode, which is kind of unfortunate. I kind of wish we had gotten like a follow-up episode for Time Force. It would have been nice to have something, I don't know, like showing the Rangers back in the future, because it just ends with them going back to the future, and then it's Wes, and we don't see any of the follow-up. Not immediately. But it would have been nice to have like a special or something right after this, kind of like what Time Ranger did. Time Ranger's last episode had this thing where all the Rangers like go through time, and they see different Sentai teams, and then they see like, I think it was Gao Rangers coming next, or was that how that ended? I don't remember. Anyway, back to the notes here. So the Rangers are at the time ship, and Wes is there to say goodbye. Oh, and the Silver Guardians are there too to see them off, and let's see. We get some interaction between Wes and every single Ranger, and that's really cool. Let's see, Lucas is the first to go on the ship. He comes up to Wes, and Wes tells him, hey, careful on the racetrack, buddy. And he's like, hey, I have a driver's license now. And it's a neat little callback to what had gone on before. Katie runs up and gives Wes one of her big bear hugs. Trip comes up and asks if he can keep his hat, which is adorable. As he turns to get in the time ship, Circuit pops out of his backpack. Bye, Wes. that's a nice little thing. I'm really glad they were able to get Circuit in there. And then, let's see. So that just leaves Jen, and we get a lot of tension between the two, and it's really clear that, like, after the last episode where Jen gives Alex back his engagement ring, it felt like it was a setup to her choosing to stay in the past, but then she doesn't here. And I don't really know why they went back on that. Like, I've heard that Jonathan Zacher didn't want to stray too far from the Time Ranger story where the girl goes back to the... Did she go back to the future? I don't remember. Or wait, what? I don't remember Time Ranger's story that well. Anyway, back to this thing. Jen gives Wes her Time Force badge, which, like, makes me wonder, is she going to quit Time Force? Like, is that going to be a thing that happens now? I don't know. Anyway. Oh, my notes are turning off again. Anyway, they tearfully part. There's a nice scene before she leaves where she starts to leave, then runs back, hugs Wes, and then finally leaves. The time ship takes off, and then Eric leads all the Silver Guardians in a salute, which is really nice to give Eric something to do here, because he's been absent most of this episode, and he's my favorite Ranger, like, ever, so he deserves something in the last episode. And then, once the time ship is gone, Mr. Collins, Wes's father, comes up to Wes and talks to him about how he wants Wes to be the new leader of the Silver Guardians, and the Silver Guardians are also going to be a free service, just like how Wes wants. And then Wes says, on one condition, I want Eric to be my partner. And it's really cool. Eric and Wes shake hands, and then the show ends with Wes holding up the Time Force badge. It's shining in the sun, and then everything freeze frames, and there's the end. Except if you're watching this on the Shout Factory DVD, it's not the end, because we get a preview for Time Force with the original demo theme for Time Force, which is freaking awesome. I really like the theme to Wild Force. I remember seeing it as a kid and being kind of excited for it. And then when Wild Force actually aired and we had a completely different theme song, I was kind of disappointed because I liked the original one a bit more, actually. Anyway, some interesting stuff in the trailer for Wild Force. It shows animal-themed Zords, which at the time was really cool because, like, when I was a kid and I was watching Time Force, even back then I wasn't super into the Zords, like the vehicle-themed Zords. Lightspeed Rescue I liked, but Lost Galaxy with the Galactabeasts, I thought they were a lot cooler. So seeing, like, Animal Zords again was really cool. Also, that they were completely CGI, which, back in 2001, 2002, whenever, that was a really big deal, because you didn't see CGI that often on TV, like, not frequently like that. So that was another really cool thing that made it stand out. We see the floating island, the Animarium, although we don't get its name. It's just this mysterious floating island that is shaped kind of weird, and that's a really big thing. Let's see. So yeah, next week I'm going to be starting Wild Force, and that'll be really cool, because I like Wild Force, but it's not a season that I've watched as much as some other seasons, so I'm really looking forward to rewatching it and getting really in-depth into every episode. There's some I'm really looking forward to. There's a few episodes I don't like that I'm also looking forward to, because it's just interesting to talk about the good and the bad. So anyway, fantastic finale, one of Power Rangers' best. Ransik is a great villain, and I love that he's one of the few villains to actually receive a redemption arc. I mean, like, I guess arc, I don't know if it's really an arc, it's more just, a very quick realization of what he's doing. I don't know if that counts as an arc anyway. Love that. I'm trying to think, are there any other villains who, like, redeem themselves at the end, or at the very least turn themselves in? And I'm not thinking of that many, especially not in recent seasons. Let's see. Oh yeah, the emotions between the Rangers are really high. Their friendship has been built up the whole season, and it's really cool to see the culmination of that at the end when the Rangers are going back on the time ship and each one is saying goodbye to Wes. And I still don't like Zacher's idea, or if it was Zacher's idea, I don't know if it was purely him or other people, because Power Rangers, like, back then it was like a major collaborative effort behind the scenes between tons of people. It's not like now where there's like one person making decisions that affect everything. Or I know there's still a lot of people behind the scenes, but at the moment it feels a lot more like there's one person giving like orders and then everyone else just goes right along with it. Anyway, going on. Oh yeah, when Gluto freezes himself, do the Rangers know he did that? Did they find him? Did they go and get Ransic's base? I mean, it is theirs. So you'd think Time Force would go and intercept it or something. If they didn't, then if Gluto was a more proactive character throughout the series, like if he was an actual villain, then I would think this was a setup for a future team-up. Huh. They could still do it in the comics, I guess. Like, maybe Time Force did leave the thing behind, and Gluto's still frozen in there. Although, if they do unfreeze Gluto, what's he gonna do? He's not really a big villain in Power Rangers. In Time Ranger, he's like the main villain. He's like a major criminal leader or something. But over here, he's just the goofy, dumb guy who was going in jail for... I don't remember what it was. I can't... What did he go into jail for? Didn't he say, like, he stole a car or something? I don't remember. Oh, my notes shut off again. So anyway, oh yeah, one of the things I want to talk about is the scene when Ransic's mask comes off and we see the, like, Toxic Avenger side of his face. Now, we've seen him without that mask on before in the series, but this is the first time, like, in the present we're seeing that thing come off, and it's the first time I think the Rangers are seeing it. And that scene where he comes up, and the mask is missing, it's so freaking cool. As a kid, that just blew my mind. Like, it's just such a cool moment. And also, it's another thing that's kind of symbolic of, like, the mask kind of represents him, like, keeping some type of humanity, but this time it's off, and he's not human. He's no longer embracing his humanity. And I think it would have been nice at the end when he turns himself in to, like, pick the mask up and put it back on or something. Then again, like, I don't know, it was off somewhere, and he probably didn't know where it was. He does get the mask back, in the future. So, anyway, oh, my notes keep shutting off here. I keep hearing animals over there. Whole bunch of them running around the trees there. Cool. Anyway. Let's see, yeah, Time Force, one of the best characters, or Time Force, one of the best seasons, Ransik, one of the best villains. The Rangers are really memorable and likable. I love them. The heroes and the villains are both, like, really likable, engaging characters. The plots as well are engaging. Fast action, great music. The only really weak element in Time Force for me is the Zords. For whatever reason, the Zords, aside from Q-Rex, never really clicked with me. Like, the main Megazord, I really don't like the blue mode design. Red mode design is okay. The Time Shadow is okay. Like, they're not bad. Well, blue is pretty bad, because it's just dumb, and I don't like it, and I don't see what the point of it is. I don't know why it exists. Yeah. Anyway, great season. Still one of my favorites, so next time is Wild Force. Looking forward to that. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoy what's coming next if you want to stick around and watch it. So that's all for this one. See ya.